The stars hung silent above Lagos that evening, their soft glow swallowed by the heavy clouds gathering like witnesses to a story yet to unfold. It was the night of the long-awaited all-night prayer, a sacred gathering from 8 p.m. until the breath of dawn. Inside the grand walls of Christ Dominion Cathedral, rows of polished wooden pews waited patiently for worshippers to fill them. The golden chandelier swayed slightly above the altar, as if bowing before the one who commands the storms. Zara Elijah, beautiful, poised, the bishop's only daughter, stood at the entrance, holding the key to the sanctuary. At just 23, she wore the crown of expectation so tightly it left invisible marks on her soul, admired, adored, untouchable. They called her the light of the youth ministry, the perfect daughter destined to follow her father's footsteps as the next voice of the pulpit. But behind her rehearsed smile was a girl who sometimes wished to just breathe without being watched. Tonight was supposed to be holy, safe, structured, a gathering like every other. But heaven had a different plan. As the clock whispered toward 7:30 p.m., the first drops of rain began to fall, soft at first, then louder, like fingers drumming impatiently on rooftops. Samuel stood beneath the cracked shelter outside the church, a helper by title, an orphan by circumstance, a dreamer by heart. 25, but the eyes of an old soul. He had never imagined he'd share more than a passing good evening with Zara. She was light years away, born of wealth and privilege. He was the nameless boy from the orphanage on the outskirts of the city. But grace, in its mysterious way, makes no appointments. It simply arrives. Zara fumbled with the church keys, her fingers trembling slightly. The clouds above grumbled as if warning the earth below. Samuel, noticing her struggle, stepped forward quietly. "Here, let me help," he offered, his voice soft, the kind of softness that makes people lean in without knowing why. Their hands touched over the cold brass key, electric, unexpected, too long to call accidental, too short to call intentional. Zara's eyes darted up, meeting his gaze, warm brown eyes with stories tucked inside. She pulled her hand back quickly, cleared her throat. "Thank you. Samuel, right?" He nodded, managing a gentle smile. "Yes, Samuel." The rain's tempo quickened, smacking against the tall stained glass windows. Zara looked outside, concern clouding her face. "I hope the others make it before the storm gets worse," she murmured. Samuel nodded again, but said nothing. He could tell she wasn't used to these kinds of silences, the ones where two people hear each other's heartbeats louder than their words. Together, they moved the chairs, arranged the pulpit, set out the prayer mats where knees would soon bend in surrender. Their hands brushed again, twice now. Zara pretended not to notice, but Samuel's chest thudded like a drum in the hands of an eager child. Outside, the sky roared its disapproval. Lightning tore through the clouds and the rain fell harder as though heaven itself was weeping. No one else came. The roads were flooded, the streets too dangerous to cross. It was just the two of them. Zara, the untouchable daughter of the bishop, Samuel, the invisible boy with borrowed dreams. Two souls stranded inside a church, meant for hundreds. Two hearts about to learn that sometimes storms don't come to destroy. Sometimes they come to make room for what would never bloom in clear skies. And so, beneath the watchful eyes of heaven and the roaring voice of rain, the first seed of a love too wild to be planned was quietly sown. The rain did not whisper. It screamed against the windows of the sanctuary, sheets of water blurring the world outside into a trembling watercolor of gray. Inside, the church felt too big for just two hearts, too quiet for the roaring storm that rattled its bones. Zara stood by the entrance, her arms wrapped tightly around herself, trying to hide the shiver that crept up her spine. The cold air slipped beneath her white lace blouse, turning her breath into soft clouds as she exhaled. Samuel watched her from the corner of the room, noticed how even the strongest lights can flicker when the winds are wild enough. "Are you cold?" he asked, stepping closer but still careful not to invade the space that was not his. She nodded slightly, eyes still fixed on the rain outside. "It's colder than I thought." Without a word, Samuel reached into the storage cabinet near the office door. There it was, the wool-gray plain fabric, folded neatly like it had been waiting for this night. "This might help," he offered. Their fingers met again as he handed it to her. Third time. Neither spoke of it, but both felt the count. The storm outside showed no mercy. Time dripped slower than the leaking ceiling above the back pews. Zara hesitated, then motioned to the small office tucked behind the pulpit. Maybe it's warmer in there. Samuel followed, cautious, respectful. But inside the little office, warmth was a stranger too. The air was heavy with dampness, the walls thin as prayers barely spoken. Zara pulled the fabric tighter around herself, teeth chattering softly. Samuel sat across from her, rubbing his palms together, unsure if it was the cold or the moment making his hands shake. "Looks like the others won't be coming," she said, her voice softer than before. Samuel nodded. "I think the rain decided this night was meant for just us." The words felt risky, but they floated between them like feathers, gentle but heavy with meaning. Minutes passed. Awkward silence filled the room until Zara smiled faintly, breaking it. "You know, I never really talked to you before." Samuel looked up, surprised. "I've noticed," he answered, his smile playful, his eyes kind. Zara chuckled, her first real laugh of the night. "I thought you were, I don't know, too serious." "I am serious," Samuel replied, leaning back, "but I laugh sometimes, just not when the bishop's around." That made her laugh again, fuller this time, her eyes softening. Outside, thunder grumbled. Inside, a gentle peace began to bloom. Samuel reached into his worn backpack and pulled out a small plastic bag. Inside, roasted corn and ground nuts, simple food, humble offering. "I wasn't sure if there'd be snacks tonight," he said shyly. "Do you?" Zara's eyes lit up, her stomach answering for her with a quiet growl. "I'm starving," she admitted, covering her mouth as she laughed again. He tore the bag open, placed it between them on the table. They ate together, fingers brushing over the kernels as they picked, sharing food like two old friends, though they were barely acquaintances. The rain slowed its pounding, now tapping gently on the rooftop. The world outside softened into a lullaby. Their conversation drifted from small talk to deeper things. Why Samuel loved helping at the church, how Zara sometimes felt trapped by the pedestal others placed her on. "I always have to be perfect," she confessed quietly, breaking off a piece of corn, staring at it like it might offer her answers. "But perfect feels so lonely." Samuel nodded slowly. "I wouldn't know about perfect, but I know lonely." Their eyes met. No performance, no pretense, just two hearts beginning to understand each other. Thunder rolled again, but softer this time, like a lullaby for the night. Zara pulled the wool fabric tighter around her shoulders, then looked at Samuel. "Come closer," she whispered. "Share this with me. It's warmer this way." Samuel's heart raced louder than the storm. He moved slowly, sat beside her, close but not too close. Respect lived between them, even as warmth began to rise. Together, they wrapped the fabric around their shoulders. Their hands met beneath its cover, not by accident, not this time. In the house of God, two hearts began to thaw, not from the cold outside, but from the ice they never knew they carried within. The rain softened into a steady hum, like the earth itself was breathing slow, steady sighs. Inside the small office, wrapped in stillness, Zara and Samuel sat shoulder to shoulder beneath the gray wool fabric, their hands quietly resting too close to ignore. There were no church songs, no sermons, no altar calls. Just the sound of rain, the gentle crackle of roasted corn between fingers, and the loud ache of two hearts learning how to speak. Zara was the first to break the silence. Her voice was soft, unsure. Do you ever wonder what it feels like to not have to carry everyone's expectations on your back?" Samuel turned toward her, eyes steady, listening like it was the most important thing he'd ever been asked. "I wouldn't know," he said with a small smile. "No one ever expected anything from me." Zara blinked, surprised. "No one?" He nodded, leaned back against the wooden wall. "I was left at the door of an orphanage as a baby. No note, no name, just me, crying louder than the Lagos thunder." Zara's heart clenched at his words. She turned fully toward him now, eyes wide, vulnerable. I'm sorry, Samuel. I didn't know." He smiled again, but this time it was sadder, deeper. "No one really asks. I'm just the helper, the boy who fixes chairs and cleans the altar when the lights are off." The air between them grew heavy, tender. Samuel reached into his bag, pulled out a small, weathered notebook. "I write letters to my parents," he said quietly, opening its fragile pages. "Not that they'll ever read them, but it helps." He flipped through pages filled with scribbled prayers, stories, and dreams. Letters that began with "Dear Mama" and "Dear Papa," words written by a boy who never got to know their faces, but still hoped they would be proud. Sometimes, he whispered, I imagine what they'd look like, if they'd be kind, if they'd come to see me sing in the church choir. Zara reached out, slowly touching the edge of the notebook with gentle fingers. Can I read one? Samuel hesitated, then nodded. She picked a page near the middle, tracing the words as if they were holy. Dear Mama, today I helped fix the church windows. The sun came through and I thought of you. I hope if you're out there, you'd be proud of me. I still don't know what my real name is, but they call me Samuel. It means God has heard. I hope he hears this too. I hope he tells you I'm okay. Zara's lips trembled as she finished. She closed the notebook slowly, pressing it gently back into his hands. I think your mama would be so proud, she whispered. Samuel looked down, swallowing hard, blinking fast to chase away the tears threatening his eyes. I hope so. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was sacred. The kind of silence that speaks louder than words. Then Zara's voice, soft but steady. Samuel, do you know what it's like to be loved by so many yet still feel so alone? He looked up, surprised by the weight behind her words. I was born into this perfect picture, she continued, eyes distant, daughter of the great Bishop Elijah, the star of the youth ministry. Everyone calls me blessed. Everyone says I'm so lucky, but sometimes it feels like I'm locked inside a golden cage. Samuel listened, fully present. I guess lonely doesn't care if you're rich or poor. She smiled faintly at that, a tear slipping down her cheek. You're the first person I've said that to. Samuel gently reached out, wiping the tear away with the back of his hand. Thank you for trusting me. Outside, the rain softened even more, as if heaven itself paused to listen. Zara leaned her head back against the wall, exhaled deeply. I'm supposed to be the role model, the one who doesn't make mistakes. But sometimes, Samuel, I'm just a girl who wants someone to see me, not the bishop's daughter, just me. Samuel's voice was low, honest. I see you. 2 simple words, but they felt like freedom. Zara's eyes met his again, and this time neither of them looked away. Sometimes the walls we build to keep ourselves safe are the same walls that keep love out. But tonight, the walls began to break. The storm was gentle now, its fierce voice lowered into whispers against the church windows, as if heaven itself leaned closer to witness 2 souls discovering each other. Inside that humble office room, Zara and Samuel sat side by side beneath the gray wool fabric, closer now, close enough to feel the quiet rhythm of their breathing. Zara's heart fluttered like a bird discovering flight for the first time. Samuel's heart raced, steady yet uncertain, like a rhythm he'd never known. In the gentle hush between them, Zara whispered softly, Samuel, can I ask you something? He turned slightly, catching her gaze. You can ask me anything. She paused, shy, eyes cast downward as she traced invisible circles on her palm. Have you ever been in love? The question hung delicately between them, a thread stretched taut. Samuel exhaled slowly, the corners of his mouth lifting into a small, wistful smile. Not really. I mean, love seemed too big for someone like me. Her eyes lifted sharply, surprised. Someone like you? He shrugged softly, voice quiet as a prayer. An orphan. No real name, no family legacy. Just Samuel, the boy who fixes chairs. Zara felt the ache in his voice, gently reaching out and touching his arm, a tender, reassuring touch. You deserve love, Samuel. You deserve it as much as anyone else. He swallowed, eyes wide, vulnerable. And you? Have you ever loved someone? She felt the blush rise in her cheeks, the confession trembling behind her lips. Not openly, she whispered, but there's someone I've always noticed. His heart paused, daring to hope. Oh? She nodded shyly, eyes sparkling under soft lashes. You. The single word drifted like a feather, gentle yet capable of changing everything. Samuel stared at her, disbelief warring with joy. You? You noticed me? Zara smiled, blushing deeper. Always, quietly, from afar. He laughed softly, shaking his head as if he couldn't quite believe this moment. Me too. I always saw you, like the brightest star I could never reach. A comfortable silence wrapped around them again until Samuel spoke, voice low and serious. Could you love a poor man like me, Zara? Her gaze softened, eyes tender. I can love a man who loves God, who sees me, who makes me laugh and cry at the same time. Samuel's breath trembled with emotion. I love God, he whispered, pausing, gathering courage, and I love you. The words hung between them like sacred candles, bright enough to warm their hearts, fragile enough to tremble. She leaned closer, voice barely audible but fiercely sincere. "I love you too, Samuel." The space between them vanished. Their fingers intertwined naturally, quietly. No hesitation, no fear. Outside, thunder rumbled gently, like a father's blessing. The church seemed to smile, walls stretching wider to hold their confession safe. Samuel felt his heartbeat quicken, warmth radiating from his chest. Zara closed her eyes, breathing in this moment, pure, unplanned, precious. Slowly, he brushed her hair away from her eyes, fingertips soft and careful. "Do you trust me?" he whispered. "With all my heart," she answered softly. Gently, tenderly, he tilted her chin upward until their eyes met, deeply, vulnerably. Their breaths synchronized, their hearts matching pace. Their first kiss was like the storm outside, gentle at first, then fierce, passionate, overwhelming. The world disappeared around them until it was just Zara and Samuel, lost in the wonder of discovering each other's hearts. Afterward, they rested their foreheads together, breathless. Samuel brushed a thumb gently across her cheek. "I never imagined," he murmured, voice trembling. "I never dreamed." She smiled softly, leaning into his touch. "Sometimes God gives us dreams we never dared to pray for." Samuel nodded slowly, pulling her into his chest, holding her gently, reverently. "I promise to honor you," he whispered into her hair. "Always." Zara closed her eyes, sighing contentedly. "Then let's promise each other to always choose God and always choose love." He smiled warmly, squeezing her hand softly. "I promise." Outside, rain continued softly, washing away old fears, preparing fertile ground for something new, tender, and sacred. Inside that tiny room, in the stillness after confession, two hearts became one, promising to build their love on faith, trust, and truth. For now, in this quiet place, their love felt holy. A secret heaven had whispered only to them. Love began softly, whispered gently between two hearts. Like rain, it fell quietly, yet it filled every empty place within them. The world outside lay wrapped in a velvet darkness, rain whispering softly now, a lullaby sung gently over the sleeping city. Inside the humble office, two hearts beat louder than the fading storm, entangled beneath the quiet hush of a forbidden embrace. Samuel's eyes searched Zara's face, tracing every gentle curve, every whispered secret written in the depths of her gaze. "Do you regret it?" he asked softly, fingers lightly caressing her palm, his voice woven with vulnerability. "No," she whispered back, a faint tremble touching her voice, her eyes sincere, her heartbeat truthful. "I can't regret loving you." The honesty of her words sent warmth rushing through him, like sunlight breaking through years of clouds. Yet in her eyes lingered uncertainty, the burden of 100 expectations she had carried her entire life. "But we must be careful," she breathed, voice trembling, delicate as porcelain. "My father, the church." Samuel gently took her hands in his, holding them tenderly, as though they were made of something fragile, precious, something he would spend his life protecting. "I know," he whispered, pressing a soft kiss against her fingertips. "I promise, Zara, to honor you, to wait for you." Her eyes softened, glistening in the dim moonlight filtering through the office window. Yet even as she nodded, her heart knew the boundaries they set were thin, as delicate as a silken thread. Silence settled once more, yet their closeness spoke volumes, a language only two hearts newly connected could understand. Zara leaned her head gently onto Samuel's chest, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat calming the turmoil within her. She sighed softly, closing her eyes. "I've heard girls talk about this, resting against someone's heartbeat, feeling safe." He chuckled quietly, fingers softly combing through her hair. "And how does it feel?" A tender smile bloomed on her lips, radiant even in the shadowed room. "Beautiful, warm, like home." Samuel's chest tightened with sweet ache, a feeling unfamiliar yet welcome, something he had never known as an orphan. "You are my home, Zara," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "For the first time, I feel like I belong somewhere, with someone." Her fingers gently traced circles against his chest, drawing invisible dreams, promises she didn't dare speak aloud yet. "Samuel," she murmured softly, lifting her face slightly to meet his gaze. "Will you promise me something?" He nodded without hesitation, sincerity shining in his eyes. "Anything." "Promise that no matter what happens," she whispered, voice vulnerable, "we will always choose God, even when it's hard, even when we fail." He smiled warmly, heart swelling with quiet devotion. "I promise, always." Yet beneath their promises, beneath the gentle caresses and whispered confessions, something deeper stirred. a passion neither had fully anticipated. Their closeness, once innocent, deepened into urgency. Soft touches became bolder, hesitant kisses grew passionate. Every careful boundary, every whispered vow of waiting, began to blur beneath the sweet intoxication of love, desire, the tender rebellion of two souls who had never felt this alive. "Samuel," Zara breathed, her voice trembling with uncertainty, even as her heart and body surrendered to the magnetic pull between them. Are we crossing a line?" Samuel's breath was ragged, eyes darkened with longing, yet soft with care, gentle with reverence. "Only if we both choose to." Her gaze softened, tears shimmering at the corners of her eyes, not from fear, but from the overwhelming beauty of being truly seen, deeply loved. "Tonight," she whispered, voice breaking with emotion, "tonight I just want to feel loved, truly loved, even if tomorrow we must face the consequences." He nodded slowly, lovingly brushing a tear from her cheek. "I will love you completely, Zara, tonight and always." And beneath the gentle, watchful eyes of the stained glass windows, in the soft embrace of moonlight and shadows, they surrendered fully. Two hearts forgetting boundaries, two souls discovering love in its rawest, most vulnerable form. Morning approached quietly, gentle light kissing the horizon, casting delicate gold upon the sleeping earth. In the small office, Zara lay softly in Samuel's arms, her breath steady, peaceful, yet her heart suddenly heavy with reality's slow return. Guilt crept quietly around them, but so did tenderness, grace, a complicated tapestry woven overnight. "Samuel," she whispered softly, lifting herself slightly to meet his eyes. We must not do this again until we are married." He nodded slowly, understanding coloring his gaze, a gentle determination softening his features. "I know. We made a mistake, Zara, but we won't be defined by it. We'll rise stronger, wiser, together." Her eyes filled with tears, relief, gratitude, and a quiet sadness mixing within them. "We'll ask for God's forgiveness, His strength." He gently took her hand, softly squeezing. "We will, and He'll listen." As dawn gently brushed the sky, two hearts knelt side by side, heads bowed beneath the weight of their confession. The room filled quietly with whispered prayers, tears, and promises anew. They rose hand in hand, hearts humbled yet hopeful, understanding for the first time the true weight of grace, not earned but freely given. They crossed a line that night, yet somehow, love and mercy whispered softly that even in mistakes, redemption still blooms. Morning light arrived gently, like a whispered prayer, softly illuminating the small office room that had witnessed their sacred sin and their tearful redemption. Samuel watched quietly as Zara stood by the window, her eyes tracing patterns in the pale sunrise, its soft gold brushing her face. The face he now knew by heart, a face he loved more deeply than he'd thought possible. She turned slowly, eyes shadowed by worry, lips trembling. "We crossed a boundary we shouldn't have," she murmured, voice fragile. "How do we move forward from here?" Samuel approached slowly, carefully, as though afraid sudden movement might fracture the fragile hope they clung to. "By holding on tighter to God and each other," he whispered gently, taking her hand, bringing it softly to his chest. Zara's eyes brimmed with quiet tears, heart heavy with the weight of her own expectations. "My father, Samuel, he expects perfection from me. What will I say?" He brushed her cheek tenderly, thumb wiping gently at her tears. "Tell him the truth. Tell him you are human. Tell him you are loved." She exhaled shakily, leaning into his touch. "What if love isn't enough?" He smiled softly, reassuringly. "Then grace will be." The quiet was soon broken by the distant hum of traffic, the slow awakening of the city beyond the church walls. Together they carefully tidied the office, removing any signs of their night of fragile love, but unable to erase the invisible mark it had etched into their souls. Before they parted, Samuel took Zara's hand, pressing gently into her palm a folded note. She opened it slowly, reading softly aloud. "My beloved Zara, last night we made a mistake. But loving you was never one of them. I promise to wait for you, honor you, cherish you until the day we say forever before God and men. Samuel." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but this time with tenderness, gratitude wrapped softly in quiet hope. "Samuel," she whispered, voice full, deep with emotion, "you are everything I didn't dare pray for." He smiled gently, pulling her into a warm, safe embrace. "And you are everything I thought I'd never deserve." Later, Zara drove Samuel home, her luxurious black hybrid car contrasting starkly with the humble neighborhood he called home. She glanced at his tiny house, modest yet warm in spirit. Samuel hesitated, humble eyes lowered as he asked gently, "Would you like some tea? I prepared some before church." She smiled softly, touched by his quiet kindness. "Another time," she whispered gently. "I have an exam soon, but thank you." He nodded understandingly, eyes filled with warmth, respect. "Good luck," he whispered, stepping slowly back, watching her car fade into the distance. As Zara returned home, her heart felt both heavy and hopeful, the taste of mercy lingering softly, beautifully on her tongue. She walked quietly into her room, locking the door softly behind her, kneeling beside her bed, heart heavy yet hopeful, tears of repentance flowing freely as she whispered prayers into the quiet morning air. "Forgive me, Father," she prayed softly, her voice trembling gently, vulnerably. "Teach me to hold love without losing holiness. Help me walk with Samuel rightly before you." At church that Sunday, their eyes met briefly across the sanctuary, a quiet exchange of tender smiles, promises, and unspoken vows to wait. Yet Zara could feel the whispers, quiet speculations, the judgmental glances from those who held her so high. But in Samuel's eyes, she saw only strength, gentleness, reassurance, a quiet reminder of the mercy they'd tasted, the forgiveness that washed over their hearts like rain. That evening, Samuel wrote another letter, this time addressed to Zara, penning his feelings with careful honesty. "Dearest Zara, tonight as I write this, I think of mercy, the mercy that meets us at our weakest. My promise to wait is not a burden, but a joy, for you are worth every moment of patience, every breath of prayer, every heartbeat of longing. Until our forever, I hold you safely within my prayers. Yours always, Samuel." When Zara received the letter, tears filled her eyes, not tears of regret, but tears of redemption, gratitude, hope woven into every careful line. She knew then that grace truly had no limit, no boundary it could not cross, no heart it could not heal. Grace found them quietly, softly washing away their shame, teaching their hearts the gentle strength of waiting, forgiving, and loving better with every new sunrise. Days turned into weeks, softened by whispered prayers and quiet promises. The love between Zara and Samuel bloomed quietly, like a secret flower tended carefully in the gentle shadow of the sanctuary. In stolen glances across crowded Sunday pews, they spoke silent languages, eyes that whispered gentle affections, smiles carrying tender promises. Yet beneath this sweetness, Zara felt the quiet ache of whispers, eyes watching her closer, voices speculating softly behind raised hymnals. "She sits with the helper now," someone murmured, voice tinged with judgment. Samuel heard the whispers too, but his heart remained steadfast, his gaze gentle and unwavering whenever it met Zara's. One quiet afternoon, while Zara arranged hymn books in the empty chapel, Samuel appeared silently at her side, holding 2 warm cups of tea. She smiled softly, grateful for the small moment of intimacy. They sat quietly on the steps of the altar, the vast sanctuary silent, except for their gentle breathing and soft sips. "Do the whispers hurt you?" he asked softly, eyes gentle, concerned. Zara sighed quietly, fingers tracing patterns around her cup's rim. "A little," she admitted, eyes lowered. "But your presence, it heals more than they hurt." Samuel gently took her hand, thumbs softly caressing her palm. "I wish I could shield you from them." She lifted her gaze, eyes warm, affectionate. "You already do, Samuel. With every quiet moment you share, every gentle word, you shield me." Yet, even as they drew closer, Zara's heart carried an unspoken fear, a question she couldn't yet voice, but felt quietly rising within her. One evening after choir practice, Zara sat alone beneath the dim glow of sanctuary lights, her fingers gently trembling as they rested on her abdomen, a sudden anxiety fluttering softly beneath her chest. What if their night of passion left more than just memories? What if their love, though beautiful, now carried a silent secret within her? She shook the thought away, but the worry lingered quietly, nesting gently yet persistently within her heart. Samuel noticed her quiet worry. One evening, beneath a twilight sky that painted soft purples and golds across Lagos, he gently took her hand, guiding her to a quiet garden behind the church. A gentle breeze whispered through flowers, scenting the air softly with jasmine and hope. "Zara," he spoke gently, eyes tender yet serious, "something weighs on your heart." Her eyes shimmered gently, unsure how to voice the silent fear. It's nothing," she murmured softly. He squeezed her hand softly, pulling her close, voice gentle and reassuring. "You can trust me with your fears, Zara. You don't have to carry them alone." Her eyes brimmed with tears, heart swelling softly with quiet gratitude. What if, Samuel, what if there are consequences? What if we created life that night? He paused quietly, absorbing the weight of her worry, but then gently lifted her chin, voice tender yet steady. Then, my love, we will face it together, he whispered gently, eyes full of quiet resolve, soft strength. Whatever comes, we will meet it side by side, in prayer and love. Zara's tears spilled quietly onto her cheeks, but now they were tears of relief, hope, tears gently wrapped in gratitude and trust. She nodded softly, pressing closer to him. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you for loving me through the uncertainty. He smiled softly, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. That's how love works, Zara. It holds tightest when uncertainty tries to loosen our grip. Their conversation deepened their intimacy, quietly threading their souls closer together, strengthening the quiet fabric of their love. Yet each passing day, Zara silently counted time, heart quietly holding its breath, waiting softly yet anxiously for reassurance or confirmation. But through it all, Samuel remained her quiet anchor, his presence steady, his love gentle, a quiet fortress amid rising whispers. One Sunday afternoon, beneath golden sunlight, Samuel and Zara walked quietly through the garden behind the sanctuary again. He gently stopped her beneath the blossoming jacaranda, soft petals falling like whispered blessings around them. Zara, he murmured softly, voice shaking gently with emotion, I just want you to know, no matter what tomorrow holds, I choose you. In hardship, in whispers, in judgment, I choose you. Her eyes filled quietly, heart swelling softly with overwhelming love. I choose you too, Samuel, no matter the cost. They held each other beneath the gentle cascade of blossoms, two hearts silently promising forever in whispered breaths, sealed softly beneath quiet kisses. And in that gentle, sacred moment, the whispers faded into quiet insignificance, for love spoke louder, promises bloomed stronger, and grace quietly wrote their future in tender, hopeful lines. Though whispers rose around them, their hearts grew stronger, quietly deepening the roots of their love, a love strong enough to weather any storm. Days unfolded gently into weeks, but inside Zara's heart, time had quietly stopped. Each morning brought a silent anticipation, a tender whisper of hope. Yet each evening left her with a growing ache, a quiet fear slowly blossoming beneath the surface. 40 days passed quietly, softly, yet her body whispered quietly the secret her heart feared most. No gentle confirmation came, no soft assurance of normalcy, only quiet, steady absence. An emptiness louder than any noise. Standing alone in her bedroom, Zara stared at her reflection, eyes trembling softly with unspoken dread, hands shaking gently around the small test she held, heart beating softly yet painfully loud. She whispered prayers beneath her breath, pleading for strength, courage, clarity. And then the truth whispered back, two quiet pink lines, delicate yet undeniable, changing her life with silent, profound clarity. She sank softly onto her bed, tears spilling quietly down her cheeks, her heart aching with both tenderness and terror. What now, God? She whispered, voice breaking gently. What path is there for me now? Quietly, she reached for her phone, fingers trembling softly as she typed a simple message to Samuel. Can we meet? I need to talk. His reply came swiftly, gentle reassurance woven into his simple words. Always, I'm here for you. That afternoon, beneath gray skies heavy with gentle rain, Zara and Samuel sat quietly together in the small garden behind the church, the place their love had quietly blossomed, now the witness to a deeper truth. Samuel sensed her quiet distress, his heart growing softly anxious. Zara, what's wrong? Her voice shook gently, tears quietly streaming down her cheeks. I'm pregnant, Samuel. Silence hung delicately between them, heavy yet tender, broken only by her quiet sobbing, her gentle whisper, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Samuel's heart swelled quietly, not with fear or blame, but with tender responsibility, gentle resolve. Softly, carefully, he reached for her hands, holding them gently, securely. Zara, look at me. She slowly lifted her eyes, expecting judgment, finding only tenderness. I'm here, Samuel whispered gently, voice steady, quiet yet powerful. I'm here and I'm staying. We will face this together. Her quiet sobbing turned to gentle relief, her heart aching softly with love, gratitude. How can you be so sure? She whispered, voice trembling gently. He smiled tenderly, gently brushing her tears away. Because love never walks away. It stays, it holds, it heals. But even amidst their quiet strength, the weight of truth was heavy. Zara knew her parents, her father especially, held expectations heavier than mountains. How could she face them, carrying this quiet truth? That evening, Zara walked slowly into her parents' grand living room, heart trembling softly, hands shaking gently. "Papa, Mama," she whispered softly, eyes downcast. "There's something I need to tell you." The bishop's eyes narrowed gently, sensing the quiet distress in his beloved daughter. "Speak, Zara." Her voice shook softly, yet she spoke courageously, her quiet truth trembling gently from her lips. "I'm pregnant." Silence fell heavy, painful, broken only by her mother's quiet gasp, her father's cold, quiet disbelief. "How?" he whispered harshly. She lifted her gaze bravely, voice trembling yet clear. "Samuel, the boy who helps at church." Her father rose swiftly, face dark with disappointment, anger. "The orphan? The helper?" His voice was sharp, bitterly quiet. "Zara, you've disgraced us all." Her mother's gentle crying echoed softly through the tense room, breaking Zara's heart further. But Zara lifted her chin, tears falling quietly, heart quietly firm in its newfound strength. "I will bear the truth openly, Papa. I won't hide from it." Her father shook his head, voice quiet yet severe. "You must hide it. The church must not know." But Zara stood quietly, bravely, resolute. "Papa, we preach truth. We preach grace. Can't we live it now?" He turned quietly away, shoulders trembling gently with silent rage and grief, leaving Zara standing alone, tears falling quietly yet resolutely down her cheeks. That night, Zara lay quietly on her bed, heart heavy, eyes red from crying, yet feeling strangely strengthened by quiet truth, gentle courage softly blooming within her. Her phone buzzed gently, Samuel's quiet message lighting up the screen. "No matter what happens, Zara, you are never alone. I love you." She pressed the phone softly to her heart, eyes closing gently, whispering prayers into the quiet darkness. "Lord, grant us courage, grant us peace. Teach us how to hold love rightly, even amidst judgment, shame, and fear." And softly, beneath the gentle whispers of her prayers, peace quietly bloomed, reminding her tenderly that even in her quiet storm, grace was present and gently unstoppable. Even when truth carries pain, love and courage softly rise, guiding wounded hearts gently toward hope, forgiveness, and grace. The air within Bishop Elijah's grand home grew thick with silence, heavy as unspoken sorrows, cold as quiet judgment. Zara sat quietly, trembling beneath the weight of her truth, her eyes red-rimmed and tender from tears. Her heart felt like glass, delicate and cracked, one careless word away from shattering. Across from her, Bishop Elijah stood stiffly, the powerful preacher rendered momentarily speechless, his proud eyes shadowed by pain and disbelief. Her mother, Grace, sat beside her, quiet tears streaming gently down her elegant face, hands folded nervously in silent prayer. The bishop's voice finally broke the unbearable silence, soft yet fierce, the quiet calm before a storm. "Zara, how could you betray our trust like this?" His words struck her like stones, yet Zara raised her gaze bravely, voice gentle but unwavering. "Papa, I never intended to betray you. It was love, not rebellion." He turned sharply, eyes fierce, pain shadowed beneath anger. "Love? With Samuel? The orphan boy? Have you lost all sense of who you are?" Zara lifted her chin, voice gentle yet firm. "No, Papa. I found who I truly am, a flawed woman who needs grace as much as anyone." Her mother spoke softly, voice trembling with gentle compassion. "Zara, the church will never forgive this, the whispers, the shame." Zara reached gently for her mother's hand, holding it tenderly, pleading quietly. "Mama, isn't forgiveness what we preach? Must we hide truth to save reputation?" Bishop Elijah exhaled harshly, pacing the room with quiet intensity, eyes burdened with quiet grief. "The church expects purity, perfection. You were their hope, Zara, their model." She stood gently, tears slipping softly down her face, voice shaking yet clear. "I am human, Papa. I made a mistake, but Samuel and I love each other deeply. Doesn't love matter more than reputation?" He turned abruptly, voice rising with quiet bitterness. Love built on sin can never flourish." Zara's voice trembled softly, yet courage wove strength into every quiet word. "But grace, Papa, grace can redeem what love missteps. Don't we always preach that?" Silence fell heavily once more, broken only by Grace's gentle sobbing, softly pleading prayers whispered beneath her breath. Finally, Bishop Elijah spoke quietly, eyes weary, defeated. "The church must not know. We will find a way to quietly handle this." But Zara shook her head gently, eyes tender yet firm. "No, Papa, I cannot hide. Samuel and I made a mistake, But we choose truth, we choose grace openly. Her father's eyes softened slightly, seeing in his daughter a quiet strength he had never recognized before, a gentle courage rooted in honest repentance, humble love. Yet his pride, his position, held him stubbornly. He turned quietly away, voice barely audible yet heavy with warning. "You will lose everything, Zara." She nodded gently, voice trembling softly yet resolute. "Maybe, Papa, but I will have truth, I will have love, and I pray someday I'll have your forgiveness." Quietly, gracefully, she rose and walked toward her bedroom, leaving behind silence heavy with unspoken words, unspoken grace. In the quiet sanctuary of her room, Zara knelt softly beside her bed, tears streaming gently, quietly, yet her heart strangely calm. Her phone lit softly with Samuel's gentle message, "Whatever comes, Zara, my heart is yours. I'm praying for courage and peace." She pressed her eyes closed gently, whispering quiet prayers into the soft darkness of her room. "Father, help us, guide us, teach us how to love rightly, truthfully, give us courage to stand strong." And in the quiet hush that followed, she felt softly held, gently comforted, as if heaven itself whispered quiet reassurance. Even in brokenness, grace blooms softly, beautifully. Across town, Samuel knelt quietly in the small chapel, heart aching gently yet quietly firm, resolved. "Lord," he whispered softly, voice shaking yet hopeful, "teach me to love Zara rightly, to stand firm with courage. Let my heart hold steadfastly to grace." As he rose, heart quiet yet strong, he knew, beyond whispers, beyond judgment, their love would quietly endure. For grace had already begun softly stitching together every fragile, broken piece. Truth spoken bravely may wound deeply, yet it opens doors softly for grace, courage, and redemption to quietly enter, healing even the deepest pain. Sunday arrived softly, cloaked in gentle sunlight, but the air inside Christ's Dominion Cathedral felt different, charged with whispers, tense with quiet judgment. Zara entered the sanctuary alone, head held high, yet heart trembling softly beneath the weight of unseen stares, the hushed murmurs following her steps like shadows. Samuel stood quietly by the altar, eyes steady, gentle, yet fiercely protective, his heart aching softly at the quiet suffering in Zara's eyes. Bishop Elijah stepped quietly onto the pulpit, voice strong yet subtly strained beneath careful composure. Yet even as he preached on grace, forgiveness, redemption, his words felt distant, disconnected, overshadowed by the whispers softly threading through the congregation. After the sermon, whispers intensified, voices hushed yet sharp, painful as quiet knives. "Have you heard about Zara? Pregnant by the helper boy, the bishop's own daughter, the shame of it all." Each whisper was a quiet dagger, piercing Zara's heart, yet she held quietly to the gentle courage that had grown within her. Samuel, seeing the quiet pain behind her brave eyes, made a choice, quietly courageous, gently resolute. Before the congregation dispersed, he stepped forward slowly, standing humbly before the altar. "Brothers and sisters," he began softly, voice trembling yet steady. The sanctuary quieted swiftly, eyes turning sharply to the young helper, surprised by his quiet audacity. "I know you have heard whispers," Samuel spoke gently, humbly, "but whispers without truth cause more pain than healing. I come before you today openly, honestly, to say Zara and I have sinned. We made a mistake." Murmurs rose quietly, sharply, but Samuel continued, his voice stronger yet still tender. "We have repented, we have asked God's forgiveness, and we ask yours now." His eyes found Zara's across the room, holding her gaze gently, lovingly. "Zara is not the only one responsible. I stand equally accountable. I love her deeply, purely, and I will stand by her openly, humbly." The room grew still, heavy with stunned silence, broken only by quiet weeping, Zara's tears of quiet gratitude, gentle relief. Then quietly, slowly, Zara stood, heart trembling softly, yet courageously strong. "I too stand before you," she spoke gently, bravely. "I failed the image you held of me, but I will not fail the truth of who I am, a woman needing grace as deeply as anyone. Samuel and I accept your judgment, but we ask humbly, gently for your grace." Quiet tears fell from many eyes, hearts softened by humble honesty, courageous repentance. Yet Bishop Elijah watched silently, eyes shadowed quietly by pride, grief, uncertainty. Unable to speak, yet heart quietly shaken by their courage. Zara and Samuel stood quietly side by side, not as saints, but as sinners redeemed by grace, holding each other's hand gently, bravely, openly. The whispers quieted, the judgment softened, replaced gently by quiet reflection, soft compassion. An elderly woman rose slowly, her voice gentle yet firm. "Who among us is without sin? Who among us deserves to judge? I forgive you both. May God bless your courage." Her words unlocked quiet mercy, soft forgiveness rising gently through the congregation, many voices softly echoing her gentle grace. Yet some eyes still turned coldly away, some whispers lingering gently, painfully. But Zara and Samuel stood quietly, humbly together, hearts held softly by newfound courage, strengthened quietly by honesty, truth, and grace. Afterward, beneath quiet twilight, Samuel gently took Zara's hand, leading her softly back to their garden sanctuary. "You were so brave," he whispered softly, eyes full of gentle pride, "so beautifully courageous." She smiled gently, tears softly shining in her eyes. "You gave me courage, Samuel, your love, your honesty." He pressed a gentle kiss softly upon her forehead. "We'll heal, Zara, slowly, softly, but we'll heal." She leaned gently into him, heart quietly hopeful, softly grateful. "Thank you, Samuel, for loving me, even in whispers, even in judgment." He squeezed her hand gently, reassuringly. "Love holds tightest through storms, Zara, and ours will weather this." Together, quietly beneath twilight, they whispered prayers, promises, knowing their courage had opened softly the door to redemption, grace gently beginning to heal wounds, restoring hearts softly, quietly, one gentle moment at a time. When courage spoke softly above whispers, shame lost its power, judgment gave way gently to grace, and quiet mercy began softly healing wounded hearts. Time moved gently forward, softening harsh whispers into quiet echoes, and slowly, delicately, grace began to weave itself softly through wounded hearts. Zara and Samuel walked quietly along this new path, hand in hand, step by gentle step, learning softly how redemption unfolds slowly yet beautifully, in quiet humility and tender patience. Yet Zara's heart ached softly for her father's distant silence, a quiet, stubborn barrier he held steadfastly, built of pride, hurt, disappointment. One evening, beneath a gentle rain whispering softly against window panes, Zara sat quietly in the sanctuary, kneeling softly beneath soft candlelight, heart murmuring gentle prayers of quiet hope, asking God softly, gently for healing between her and her father. "Father, soften his heart," she whispered gently, voice trembling with quiet sincerity. "Teach us both to forgive." Unknown to her, Bishop Elijah stood quietly in the shadows, watching softly, silently, eyes glistening gently with unshed tears, hearing clearly the tender sincerity of her whispered prayer, his heart quietly aching with regret and love. Meanwhile, Samuel worked quietly, tirelessly, humbly, building a gentle foundation for their future. Taking extra work, serving quietly, earning respect, softly, slowly, within the community. The congregation's quiet judgment faded gradually, softened gently by Samuel's humble integrity, by Zara's quiet sincerity and courageous humility. One gentle afternoon, Samuel found Zara softly tending flowers in the church garden, sunlight gently illuminating her peaceful face. His heart swelled quietly, deeply grateful. "Zara," he murmured softly, approaching quietly, carefully. "Can you join me tonight? There's something I want to share with you." She smiled gently, eyes soft, curious. "Of course, Samuel." As twilight fell gently, Samuel led Zara softly back into the sanctuary, now softly lit with candles, gentle music whispering quietly from the old piano in the corner. Zara watched softly, eyes heart beating gently faster, curious yet calm. Samuel sat quietly at the piano, fingers trembling softly yet sure, beginning gently to play a quiet melody, delicate, tender, notes softly woven with love. "I wrote this song for you," he whispered gently, voice shaking softly, vulnerable, sincere. "For us, for our child, to remind you always that love redeems, that hope heals softly, beautifully." Zara's eyes filled gently with quiet tears, heart trembling softly with overwhelming love. Samuel sang quietly, tenderly, voice weaving softly through candlelit air. "In storms we found our love, beneath whispers grace enough, and though we stumbled, fell, and cried, redemption softly by our side. Zara, love, forever mine, in God's grace our hearts entwined." As his voice faded softly, he gently took her hand, eyes warm, tender, full of quiet devotion. "Zara, will you marry me?" he whispered gently, voice shaking softly with love. Her heart paused quietly, joyfully, tears gently falling down smiling cheeks. "Yes, Samuel, 1,000 times yes." Later that evening, Bishop Elijah entered quietly, unnoticed, standing softly in the chapel's gentle shadows, watching his daughter quietly embracing love, redemption, joy. His heart softened gently, quiet tears slipping softly down his proud face, his stubbornness finally melting gently beneath Grace's quiet warmth. Stepping forward gently, humbly, he spoke softly, voice tender, sincere, repentant. "Zara, Samuel, I've been wrong. Pride blinded me, judgment hardened me, forgive me." Zara turned swiftly, tears flowing gently, quietly. "Papa," she whispered, voice trembling with hope. The bishop approached softly, opening his arms gently. Zara stepped quietly into her father's embrace, heart gently overwhelmed, healed softly by Grace's quiet redemption. Samuel stood quietly, respectfully, eyes gentle, hopeful. The bishop turned quietly to him, eyes sincere, softened. "Samuel, forgive me, you've shown courage, integrity, true love. Welcome to our family, son." Samuel bowed his head softly, humbly. "Thank you, sir, thank you." That night, beneath quiet stars and gentle moonlight, redemption whispered softly through every heart, healing old wounds, restoring quiet trust, promising tenderly a new beginning. Zara lay quietly, softly thankful, Samuel's gentle presence comforting beside her, her heart softly singing quiet gratitude, peace, and joy. They knew redemption would continue softly, a gentle journey, a daily choice. But tonight, beneath Grace's gentle embrace, their hearts rested softly, quietly restored, tenderly redeemed. In gentle whispers, redemption heals, hearts restored softly, quietly, Grace writing gently a new beginning from the broken pieces. Morning sunlight fell softly, gently blessing the sanctuary where Zara and Samuel would soon quietly pledge their forever. The cathedral, once a place of whispers and judgment, now bloomed gently with grace and forgiveness, softly adorned with white roses, lilies, their fragrance delicate and pure, like redemption quietly unfolding. Bishop Elijah stood humbly, quietly at the altar, heart gently humbled, softly transformed. His eyes glistened tenderly, watching Zara approach softly, gracefully, her white gown simple, delicate, her eyes shining softly, joyfully beneath her delicate veil. Samuel stood quietly beside the bishop, heart trembling gently, softly overwhelmed with quiet gratitude. The orphan boy, once unnoticed, now stood humbly, redeemed by love, restored softly by grace, ready quietly to embrace a future woven with hope. As Zara reached Samuel, Bishop Elijah spoke softly, voice gentle, humble, trembling slightly with quiet emotion. "Today we witness the quiet miracle of grace. Two hearts united softly through mistakes and courage, now blessed gently, beautifully, by redemption and love." Samuel gently took Zara's hands, eyes meeting hers tenderly, quietly sincere. "I, Samuel, promise softly before God and these witnesses, to love you gently, completely, to honor and cherish you through all trials, storms, joys, for all of our days." Zara's voice trembled softly, joyfully sincere, eyes shining tenderly as she spoke. "I, Zara, promise before God to love you, Samuel, with grace, humility, truth, through every joy, every struggle, forever by your side." Tears fell softly throughout the congregation, hearts touched gently, souls quietly reminded of Grace's quiet strength, love's tender power to heal, redeem, and renew. Months passed softly, quietly, gently, love blossoming beautifully, strengthened softly by humility and truth. And one gentle morning, soft golden sunlight streaming tenderly through hospital windows, Zara gave birth quietly, softly, to a beautiful, healthy daughter. Samuel gently held his newborn daughter, heart swelling softly, joyfully, tears slipping gently down his face. "What shall we call her?" Zara asked gently, voice soft with exhaustion and joy. Samuel smiled gently, eyes tenderly thoughtful, softly sincere. "Grace," he whispered, "for grace healed us, grace held us, grace gave us hope." Zara nodded gently, eyes shimmering softly, beautifully. "Grace it is." Time gently unfolded their future. Zara preaching softly, courageously at church, Samuel quietly ministering humbly beside her. Their love deepening softly with every gentle trial and triumph. Their story softly became one of quiet hope, whispered grace, reminding all who heard it that even in brokenness, redemption blooms softly, powerfully, beautifully. Years later, beneath twilight skies softly painted gold, Samuel held Zara gently, watching little Grace quietly playing among wildflowers in their gentle garden. "Samuel," Zara whispered softly, eyes tender, heart content, "did you ever imagine we'd find such joy after all the storms?" He smiled quietly, pressing a tender kiss softly against her hair. "No, my love, but grace always writes a better story than we can." She nodded gently, leaning softly against his chest, heart beating peacefully. "And I'm so grateful for our story, every tear, every storm, because they led me gently, softly, beautifully to you." As evening fell gently, quiet stars blinking softly in twilight, Zara and Samuel stood quietly together, their hearts softly healed, beautifully redeemed, reminding every heart softly of hope's gentle whisper. Even beneath the darkest storms, love rises gently, grace heals softly, redemption quietly transforms broken hearts into beautiful stories that never fade. And so, dear listener, this was not just a love story. It was a story of falling, but more importantly, of rising. A story of mistakes made, but grace chosen. Because love, true love, does not deny weakness. It faces it, forgives it, and fights to grow beyond it. We all stumble, but it is not the fall that defines us. It is the courage to stand again, the humility to seek forgiveness, and the faith to believe that we are still worthy of love, still worthy of purpose. Never let shame be louder than grace. Real love does not rush. It does not manipulate. It does not hide in secret corners. True love waits. It respects boundaries. It honors God. It holds on even when storms rage, because love that honors becomes love that endures. If this story touched your heart, if these lessons spoke to your soul, I invite you to be part of our journey here at this channel. Subscribe for more stories that inspire, heal, and remind us all that grace is still alive, and that love, when led by faith, always finds its way. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and remember, your story isn't over yet. The next chapter is waiting. Thank you for watching. Until next time, may grace and truth always guide your heart.